I must admit, these contestants are excellent at fishing. One cast and they have a feast. This guy even snagged an eel. Even headless, the eel's still wriggling. The meat must be tasty. Just toss it in the pot and watch it squirm. Although there were no seasonings, the natural flavor was still delicious. Have any of you ever eaten something strange in the wild? Don't get too excited right away, since more fish might be nearby. See, here's another one. You could toss it right into the pot. Of course, the best option is to smoke it. This way, it not only tastes delicious, but also lasts longer. How would you cook it if you were in the wild? The Danish Alone in the Wilderness is back, bringing past contestants to tackle the Norwegian forest again. It's unclear if their past experiences will help. With richer resources, some contestants are quickly finding plenty of food. Check out how everything's so neatly arranged, like they're prepping a market stall. Honestly, the fish is the best thing to eat here. Everyone's got a stash of dried fish, like they're prepping for a banquet. When it's grilled, the aroma is mouth-watering. I wonder if we sign up now, can we still snag some of that fish? First, let's check out where Chris did quite well. Next up is Jesper from Season 4. He had a pretty easy time in his challenge, with hardly anything slowing him down. Sadly, injuries eventually got the better of him. If Jesper stays healthy this time, I believe he could win. I'm excited to see how he does this season. Jesper says it feels like he's back home. He's already got plans for the prize money and is super confident. He even told the others to pack up and leave early. His arrogance is off the charts. Let's see if he can beat his previous record. Jesper thinks the forest trolls here are really not great. He even wants the show to change locations. Let's first see what resources are available. Take note of his smile now. Wait until the next check-in, he won't look this lively. How long do you think he'll last this time? Next up is Camilla, the tough competitor from Season 5's Duel Challenge. After all, she's the one who drank her own urine. She believes this time will be. Friend is very worried about Camilla, thinking she won't last long without her by her side. Camilla just smiles silently. The challenge was sweet, but caring for her girlfriend was stressful. Now, on her own, Camilla can't imagine losing. She's determined to outlast her previous stint. She even asked the show to prepare food for her return and told her girlfriend to prepare a big meal. Camilla is ready to win this time. Let's hope nature cooperates. To help them last longer, the show has given them top-notch gear. They can bring one extra item of their choice. Past contestants picked all kinds of things. I wonder if their experience will help. Jesper got a stick as soon as he entered the game. Whether used as a cane or a weapon, it felt just right in his hand. After a quick clean, he didn't expect to find food right away. He slowly approached with the stick. In no time, he snagged a fish from the water. Wow, food right off the bat. Just as long as he avoids beer, he's good. From past experience, Jesper figured there'd be mushrooms around. Sure enough, he found some nearby. Collecting them all would last him a while. Jesper felt this place was fantastic and became more confident he could stay till the end. Everything was going well, and his mood was improving. In wilderness survival, resources are the most important. You can't miss any edible things. Jesper felt he was doing great, while Chris hadn't even landed yet. He was already excited on camera. The show stressed no contact with others, but there weren't many rules. Returning to Norway for wilderness survival, Chris felt younger. He wondered what challenges he would face this time. He took his time, soaking up the sun and surveying the area before exploring. Chris quickly decided on a spot for his shelter. For him, being close to the shore was crucial for easy access to water and fishing. Setting up the shelter was much simpler. Just pull up the waterproof tarp. Anyway, he would build a bigger one later. As long as he could sleep, it was good enough. It took under 10 minutes to set up, and now he could rest. Let's see which joining the challenge as soon as he entered. He didn't expect to suffer again. Last time, he only lasted 16 days, and it was miserable with his partner. This time, he didn't expect to win, just to beat his previous record. Victor wasn't doing well. It seems like the producers just needed an extra body. Victor had zero motivation from the start, just lying around doing nothing. We could count him out already. After lounging around forever, Victor finally got up to explore and found the place quite nice. But then he found another place to crash. This doesn't seem like survival. Victor said he was too worried to sleep last night, snoring. He must be really exhausted. The cat keeps coming down. He doesn't like the spot the producers chose. Lingering here too long might lead to perpetually cold legs. Oh, and look who just showed up. Anyone recall Lars from Season 3? Right after, Sunny from Season 2 shows up. He's here to win this time, brimming with confidence. I didn't expect Anna from Season 6 to be invited. She was so excited she got a stomachache, and then she saw Bork from Season 2. She's super confident. Unless the producers drag her out, she's set on lasting till the end and winning. The environment here is really nice. If possible, she doesn't want to disturb it. Wow! It wasn't like this in season 2. Let's see how she performs next. Victor's crushing him. Hopefully, resting will help a bit. Camilla is busy chopping wood. She finds the environment okay, but thinks it needs some tweaking. She hasn't come across any food yet. She's a bit bummed out. A bite of meat today would lift her spirits and boost her confidence for the challenge. Camilla's shelter is even simpler. Just a pull of the rope, and it's almost done. It doesn't even look like she's here for survival. She looks like she's on a relaxing vacation, totally at ease. Lars, meanwhile, has picked his shelter spot. With just a stick and a waterproof cloth, he can easily set up his shelter. Burke simply uses a rope. Then he covers it with the waterproof cloth. Other contestants' setups are quite similar. The simpler, the better. As long as it keeps the rain out, it's good enough. They'll just brave the wind with their sleeping bags. The first day is all about simplicity. They're happy with their shelters. Lars is unsure about dangerous animals nearby. Hopefully, he won't run into any. Otherwise, he'd have to move to another spot. Chris is exploring the surroundings, stopping only when he reaches a vertical wall. He's really curious about what's on the other side, and Jesper is probably nearby. No wonder the show stresses avoiding others. Jesper is busy collecting mushrooms to eat. Unexpectedly, a mouse escapes, leaving only a dead one behind. This dampens his spirits a bit, so he turns to fishing. Lots of contestants have pro fishing rods. They believe the fishing conditions here are excellent. With a fishing rod, they have a better chance of sticking around longer. Fishing fans should definitely check this place out. The setting is peaceful, and there are loads of fish. Jesper says it's not that many. He hasn't caught any fish yet. Now he's collecting branches to make a bed. He's confident he'll sleep well tonight. Then, he notices the fishing line moving and rushes to check the rod. Sure enough, there's a fish on the line, and it's pretty big. He didn't think he'd catch so much on day one. He's thrilled. Pairing it with mushrooms will be delicious. He quickly wraps up his shelter setup, not aiming for perfection. He just drapes the waterproof cloth casually. It's time to cook the fish, even without any seasoning. It tastes quite delicious. He recalls how he used to relieve stress every day by focusing like this. Jesper thinks this challenge isn't that hard. As long as his body doesn't have any major issues, he can keep up this pace. He's sure he can finish the challenge. The others aren't as fortunate. They haven't caught any fish. It's time to head back to the shelter and rest. Camilla didn't fear championship. Today, I plan to look around nearby. Finding a suitable spot is crucial. Sunny's scouting for a shelter spot, while Burke's concerned about rising water levels and needs to factor that in. He doesn't want to build only to relocate later. Last time, the tough conditions meant most shelters couldn't withstand the test. The rising water level didn't help. It flooded the shelters instead. So, everyone's now focusing more on picking the right spot. Jesper likes the area and wants to explore further. He needs plenty. He was ready to leave. Victor claimed he wanted to continue, but it didn't seem likely given his condition. Sunny discovered an ideal spot only 20 meters from the lake. It seemed perfect for setting up camp. He aims to finish it all at once, starting with the frame and then adding a waterproof sheet. That rock seems quite large, but 2 people can handle it. Burke prioritizes food and goes to the shore to fish. To catch fish, they used berries as bait. Anna just collected mushrooms to eat, hoping to make the food last longer. The best method is to dry them. When you're ready to eat, just toss them in a pot to cook. Despite their volume, they don't offer much energy. Lars' shelter is a classic design, reliable for wilderness survival in both space and warmth. She believes it will work. Camilla then remembered to fish, something she hadn't done much since childhood. She picked up a little during the show's training, so she didn't expect much, but soon after starting, looks like her casting is pretty good. Camilla suddenly found fishing quite enjoyable. Thank you, nature, for your gift. Tonight, we'll cook the fish well. Chris also caught a fish, though it wasn't very big. But for her, it was already great. Today is her little daughter's birthday. She hopes everyone stays happy. She even crafted a small candle and wonders how her little daughter is doing. It's the 3rd day of the challenge. Camilla's initial excitement has faded, leaving her feeling lost and uncertain. It's also her birthday today. His girlfriend used to surprise him on his birthday, but now, alone, he feels lonely. To know if this really works, or was he just thirsty? You can actually replenish salt through sweat, but Camilla found this more convenient. You have to admit, she's pretty tough. Jesper keeps toiling on the shelter, needing to remove the roots to prevent moisture from seeping in. He doesn't want the shelter to feel like a sauna. He pushed himself too hard and fell, but thankfully wasn't injured. He needs to be more. Shelter won't hold up. They had suffered a lot before. This time, they can't make the same mistakes. They must get the shelter built properly. Victor invested considerable effort and finally completed the frame. He believes that once this is done, it will surely be the coolest shelter once they cover it with branches. He feels much better now. He believes he can make it to the end. Failing didn't season them, but they tasted fine. Next time, they should try it with berries. Anna used mushrooms this time. Victor isn't a fan of fish, but he has to eat. He'll definitely faint from hunger. He forced himself to eat the fish despite feeling uncomfortable. Although it was a bit comforting, it actually tasted pretty good. The others began tasting the food, thinking this is what survival food should be. Camilla enjoyed having fish on her birthday. Unfortunately, she felt lonely without her girlfriend and considered going home. By the fourth day, Jesper noticed the weather getting colder. And shivered even inside his sleeping bag. He gathered more firewood to stay warm. The smoke was a bit suffocating, and the shelter needed more work. They couldn't afford to waste energy wandering around like before. This time, they need to pay more attention to their bodies. He isn't as strong as last time. It feels harder. First, he needs to eat some fish. Though a bit burnt outside, the meat inside is tender. Jesper is joyfully eating the fish. I hope everyone enjoys it. Victor's headaches are returning. I'm not sure what went wrong. I spent an hour trying to start a fire, but couldn't. It took a lot of effort to finally get it going. He needs to get some emergency food ready. Hopefully, eating will help him feel better, but it didn't work as well as expected. Instead, it made him throw up. Camilla is busy making a large bed. Last time, the space for the two-person challenge was too small. Sleeping was very uncomfortable. Being alone this time is much better. Chris still hasn't built a shelter. Instead, he's considering building a raft. From the last challenge, it's clear that building a shelter early is wiser, but later, there won't be much energy for finding food. Is he trying to beat the odds? Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through. Chris found it incredible. The wind blowing through the jungle sounded like a symphony. He felt completely relaxed and thought for a long time. He decided to build a shelter anyway. It would be simpler, but still a major task. Camilla aims to stay for 40 days. She aims to beat her previous challenge and needs the shelter to keep her warm at night. The framework is nearly complete. The producers knew the contestants wouldn't be very strong, but didn't expect anyone to quit so early. Victor feels like his body is about to burst and can barely stand. After a brief checkup by the doctor believes it's likely just acclimatization and not too serious. He thinks Victor can keep going. Hearing this, Victor feels even worse. He really doesn't want to stay any longer. He just wants to go home and rest. It proves that wilderness survival isn't for everyone. Hopefully, Victor will take care of himself after going back. Last time, he went 5 days without food and was fine. This time, 4 days have already worn him out. Victor says he shouldn't have joined the challenge. He's emotionally drained. He packs up and leaves. The others keep pushing forward. Everyone wonders who will be the next to leave after Victor. Let's wait and see. I wonder how long everyone expects to last. It's only the 3rd day. Lars finally caught something, but it's such a tiny fish it wouldn't even fill a gap in his teeth. Funny, considering he bragged about eating well when he first got here. Now, it's a bit embarrassing given the situation. It was the same in the 3rd season. People assumed he was just there for entertainment. His skills were impressive, and both the crew and audience enjoyed watching him. He doesn't want to quit this time due to hunger. His strategy is to stockpile more food to ensure he can last until the end. Lars has high expectations this time. He aims to stay longer and has put on extra weight to prepare. Sunny is feeling pretty good. Although she's eating less, her mental state seems fine. Her shelter is basic, but it'll hold up unless it rains heavily. Still, it could use some upgrades. The nighttime wind is freezing, and she knew this place would be especially challenging. No woman has won yet. She aims to make history. In Season 2, she lasted just 25 days and felt quite disappointed. After returning, she trained to avoid the same issues as last time when the cold made her body struggle to adapt. She thinks that overcoming this challenge will let her stay longer, so the shelter needs to be sturdy. This will keep her warm in winter. She used nails to secure it, so strong winds won't blow it down. Sunny believes her setup is much better than her last challenge. She even made a decent bed this time. You have to admit, Sunny has prepared a lot for this challenge, thanks to her previous work experience. She can build things that are both comfy and nice looking, and now she can move her stuff in. Sunny isn't sure how the others are faring, but right now, she feels quite at ease. She's also collected some food, though it doesn't provide much energy. It's just enough to curb her hunger. With plenty of dry grass around, Sunny believes starting a fire will be easier. Despite his efforts, he only got a tiny spark. Next time, he must bring a fire starter. Sunny has serious doubts about the show's equipment. Last time, he spent the whole day frustrated with fire issues. He felt like breaking everything. He suspects the bark is faulty. At home, it was always easy. Anna is unsure what to do today, fetch water or chop wood. She decides to take a walk nearby. She hopes to find a better spot. For some reason, she eats very little but keeps burping. Her body doesn't feel good at all. She needs to eat soon to feel better. Last time, she had a partner, and even though it was hard, They manage to get along. She suggests bringing a friend for the experience, as it can strengthen the relationship. Of course, it could also lead to conflicts. After all, without food, tempers can flare up. Last season, her partner couldn't handle it physically, otherwise she could have kept going. So, she's quite confident about winning this time. Now, she needs a warm shelter. Anna thinks this area is pretty good. She can dig out a fireplace and place rocks around it. Next, she needs to build the shelter. It's another exhausting task. She wonders if her body can handle it. Anna made a fire to keep warm and cook. She's curious about how smoked mushrooms taste here. They were just okay, not as surprising as she thought. As long as it fills her stomach, it's fine. Although she thinks her girlfriend might slow her down, she does miss her a lot. Burke finds it really tiring to balance survival tasks with filming. People might wonder why their footage looks so good. It's because they want more screen time on TV. Now, Burke needs to build a big shelter. It's crucial for surviving the winter. He doesn't want to quit because of the cold. He wants to finish it today because there are a lot of clouds. He's concerned about a heavy rainstorm. Meanwhile, Lars is by the shore, boiling water and resting, looking very relaxed. Actually, it was really hard for him at first. He was clueless. Now, he just goes with the flow. He has no plan. If he's hungry, he fishes. If not, he works on the shelter. In the end, nothing was done well. So now I need to stop and calm down. I can't keep going like this. Without enough food, I need to plan my energy use carefully. Surviving in the wild can be really confusing. My plan is to start with a cup of tea to make things easier. Once calm, Lars decided to try fishing again. I found a beer can on the shore. Normally, it would just be trash, but in the wild, it's a treasure. The pull tab can serve as bait. Reflecting light in the water to lure fish. In theory, it should attract fish, but who knows if it will work. Burke had hoped to fill his stomach this way. But after 3 days of trying, it was useless. His stomach growled with hunger. At least the shelter was done, which was some comfort. Despite this, Burke could accept it. As long as he found food before his emergency rations ran out, he could keep going. After all, he was a retired veteran. His survival skills were solid, but age was catching up, and his stamina was waning. It was a shame he had to quit the 4 Seasons challenge last time. He had to leave because he broke his ribs in a fall. He left in less than 5 days. This time, he didn't claim he'd win. The top 3 finish would suffice. Burke had put in a lot of effort. He finally caught a fish. He tasted the fish roe right away. He loved that fishy and salty taste. Lars was ready to tweak his hook, convinced the pull tab worked well. Now, it was time to see a miracle. Lars attached it to a small tree, confident it could handle smaller fish. Now, he just had to wait for a catch. On the 4th day of the challenge, Sonny went to take a bath and check the fish net. It would be great if there was a fish in it. Sonny's physical condition was indeed impressive. Most people would be shivering in the cold with bare arms. But he still managed to wade into the water to check the fish net. Fortunately, there was a decent fish in it. He was thrilled, at least he wouldn't go hungry for the next few days. But when Lars woke up, he was starving. He had to find food quickly. The weather looked good, so fishing shouldn't be a problem. Death wasn't as easy as imagined. If he didn't catch a fish today, he would have to look elsewhere. Lars hoped he wouldn't be that unlucky. First, he needs to sharpen his tools to clean any fish he catches quickly. But as luck would have it, things went awry. The axe was too sharp and injured his finger. Lars really has no luck this time. The wound is quite severe. He needs to treat the wound quickly to avoid infection. The surrounding wood is stained red. You can guess how much it hurt. Lately, he's had to keep the wound dry, which has really slowed him down. Considering Lars' current state, it seems doubtful he'll last. He isn't ready to give up just yet. He still plans to set up fishing nets, so he tried another beach, hoping to catch some fish. He used a stone to secure one end and connected the other to a pole. Lars is confident he will succeed. He waded into the icy water with the pole, his hands and feet nearly numb. But as long as he sets up the net, it will be worth it. He feels there's a good chance of catching fish. He's confident he can finish this challenge and has resumed performing for the camera. I wonder if he's cold. Burke woke up to squirrels and considered hunting one. His shelter was less comfortable than he had expected. He considered building a new bed and wondered if his friends recalled his bathroom struggles last season. There were no big leaves around, and he was always in the cold wind. This time, Burke got clever and used something else to wipe. I wonder how that feels. Fortunately, Burke found bigger leaves, so he avoided scratches. He actually enjoys going to the bathroom in the wild. He enjoys the beautiful scenery, which lifts his spirits. Afterward, he ate some ginger fruit to boost his energy. Burke feels the pressure this time is greater than he imagined. He set up the camera to go into the water but forgot to turn it on. He feels his focus has decreased a lot. Just relying on ginger fruit, his body might not hold up. Anna used deodorant before the challenge to avoid smelling bad for a month, but combined with sweat. The smell is intense, but it's an improvement from the last challenge. Despite washing thoroughly, she couldn't get rid of the lingering odor. So, she's being extra cautious now. She can't fathom how others tolerate it. On the bright side, the smell keeps animals away. No need to worry about nighttime attacks. Anna's actually a vegetarian and wouldn't touch fish if not for this challenge. After the last challenge, I've been wandering in the wild. Being close to nature is really relaxing. But if she wins the prize, she still wants to buy a house. Anna thinks fishing is like dating. If you rush, you'll just scare them off. Patience is key. I have no idea how long I've been standing here. Anna is feeling terrible. Sunny wants to build a small boat for setting up nets because wading into the water daily is too exhausting. I've always wanted to build a small boat for the challenge. In my free time, I relax in my cabin. She loves the outdoor survival experience and, if possible, she hopes to make it look nice during the challenge to lift her spirits. Sunny's boat frame is nearly finished, but she didn't see the finger cut coming. Thankfully, it was minor. After a quick fix, she got back to boat building. As long as it doesn't get infected, he's fine. After much effort, the boat is finally finished. Even though Camilla caught fish immediately, it doesn't guarantee she'll keep catching fish. He's anxious about future catches. Fishing demands a lot of patience. Otherwise, you won't notice when the line gets robbed. Chris is using berries as bait, hoping to catch some fish. But it's not working well. Now he doesn't know where to find food. He really hopes nature will provide some. He has to light a fire to warm up and rest. Be cautious when breaking branches, or you might get hurt like he did. Chris needs a moment to cool off. All the contestants aim to last longer this time and avoid an early exit. At least outlast their previous attempt, always pushing their limits. Sunny managed the fish well. The fish tasted quite good after cooking, and he wishes he could eat it daily. He hopes the others don't catch any, giving him a better shot at the prize. Burke is worn out and just wants to rest. Surviving in the wild is really tough. He has a lot to do, but his main concern is still food. He's unsure when he'll get a proper meal. Relying on berries and emergency food isn't enough. It's best to catch more fish. That way, his body can keep going. Jesper isn't in a hurry to work either. He first sets up his camp. It's actually not that hard to make. Be cautious when cleaning inside, or you could injure your hand. Taking protective measures is wise. Only those who've done wilderness survival know the value of music. Sunny caught another small fish to eat. He felt like he was getting better, but then Burke started feeling off. His body was incredibly sore. Today's activity shouldn't have caused this. He thought he must be sick and wondered if rest would help. On day 5, Camilla had a rough night. She needed a comfier bed and was disturbed by some noise. She spent the night fearing an attack and only dozed off at dawn. These mosquitoes are swarming her blood. Who can put up with this? Burke's condition worsened. He was drained and his chest felt tight. Lars, however, felt fine. He was constantly thinking about finding food, convinced there had to be more to eat in this environment. The production team got a call from a contestant. Can you guess who dropped out? No surprise, it was Burke asking for a doctor. He could barely talk. This wasn't like his last challenge. Maybe Norway just isn't for Burke. Continuing would only worsen things. The production team confirmed it wasn't scripted. Burke had to leave due to health issues. He had no other option. He had to pack up and head home. At least he didn't break a rib this time. Is that progress? It's surprising how fast he had to leave. Now, just 6 contestants remain. It's hard to predict who will endure. They're all on equal footing. Lars also thought about quitting, but felt 5 days was too soon. He decided to stay at least a month. He went back and built a stove for the shelter, just not sure when they'll have meat to cook on it. The stove does look pretty good now. With the iron chain he found earlier, he believed it would be useful for hanging a pot. What do you all think? Camilla needs to chop a lot of wood every day. Firewood is crucial for her. Sunny is busy collecting berries to eat. She saves some for winter. Anna built a large frame to place her wings in the water. This simplifies setup and securing, though it's somewhat heavy to move. Jesper reinforced the shelter with more waterproofing. Everyone is working hard. They all want to showcase their skills on camera. Wilderness survival is truly tough. Check out Jesper. He misplaced his knife. Things were deteriorating for him, and losing the knife was a major blow. You can't really use an axe for food prep. Jesper had to search carefully, or he'd have to go home and buy a new knife. The most troublesome part was that the knife handle blended in with the surroundings. Just when Jesper thought he was doomed, he suddenly found the knife. He finally felt relieved. Now it's drizzling outside, so Anna can only rest in the shelter. It does affect her mood a bit. When the rain lets up, Anna will need to set up the net in the water. Surviving in the wild is hard. She undresses and wades into the water. If you're feeling weak, the cold water can be tough, but Anna felt fine and even took the chance to bathe. She didn't forget to show off her figure on camera. Jesper also got into the water naked. There shouldn't be any issues with the stinging nettles here, but the cold made everything shrink, so he had to slowly move towards the shore. Camilla finally managed to improve the shelter, but she was utterly exhausted. Lars finally caught a fish, and he was over the moon. Even though it was just a small fish, it was a victory for him. He started performing for the camera again. He just hopes to catch more fish later. Sunny plans to take the small boat to deeper waters, and it worked better than expected. As long as it's not windy or rainy, he can catch more fish with the boat. Lars has already cleaned the fish. But while cooking, there was smoke everywhere, almost putting out the fire. Thankfully, he managed to cook the fish. Lars regained his confidence, believing he could last another month. He just needs to set up a smoke vent tomorrow. It's day 6 of the challenge. Anna needs to build a shelter. It took 2 people half a day last time, but she can do it alone now. You have to admit, she's improved a lot, but it's very physically draining. The finished product looks quite good. Lars is working on his nighttime shelter, laying sand on the ground for the fire. Lars is confident the smoke won't be an issue this time. He prepared some food to celebrate and set out family photos. He believes this embodies true wilderness survival. Sunny checked the net early. The small boat is a big help. The net in deeper water catches fish more easily, but there was trouble retrieving it. It got stuck and wouldn't budge. They had to cut the net open with a knife, unsure of what went wrong, which really worried him. Meanwhile, Camilla had a small mishap with her food. A small fish with vegetables. He thought it was okay, but not filling. He'll likely be hungry again by midnight. Jesper spent a lot of time building the base. The sound quality is decent, but the mouth part still needs some adjustments. Sunny spent a lot of effort getting the secondary net ready. Hopefully, it won't get stuck again this time. Who knows what challenges lie ahead? On day 7, Camilla demonstrated on camera how to use the toilet correctly in cold weather. It worked great, protecting your skin from the cold. You can even use it while still in bed. It's perfect for winter laziness, and Camilla loves it. Just rinse it with water after use. I hope you all get to use it soon. No more hassle of taking off clothes, especially in cold areas. It's like a miracle device. Camilla's getting one for her girlfriend when she returns. Now, let's check in on Lars. When she woke up, she looked so content, as if it was raining outside. But it didn't bother her at all. It's so dry here that no water gets in. Lars had studied the climate here before coming. That's why she picked this spot to build, and it was the right call. Otherwise, who could enjoy the scenery? Sitting here is super relaxing, and her mood keeps improving. Meanwhile, Jesper looks a lot more relaxed. He picked up his homemade instrument and started playing. Surprisingly, it actually worked, and the sound was pretty good. Jesper feels it needs a few tweaks. With the prize money, he can create his own music. He then lay down to rest again. He's not worried about the rain at all. This time, he's well prepared. Unlike last time, when the shelter flooded before, he struggled a lot. Now, even if the water rises, it won't get halfway up the slope. Jesper thinks he's really smart. The only downside is that the waterproofing isn't perfect. He needs to fix it up a bit. The wall absorbs water, causing the bottom to turn into a small pool. He needs to haul stones from the shore to block the water and divert it outside, which should keep the shelter dry. But hauling stones is tiring. After 2 trips, Jesper is winded. Now the camera moves to Sunny. Since the net got stuck and had to be cut, and the weather is bad, he can't go into the water. He needs to use the waterproof top instead. He planned to make a fire on the shore to stay warm, but the rain ruined that. It's tough to stay positive after spending so much time and energy building the boat. No one expected this outcome. Sunny already regrets making it. Taking down the waterproof top alone was exhausting, and there's still plenty to do. Don't assume this challenge is easy. There's a ton of work involved. Much of it doesn't make the final cut. It's non-stop from morning till night. He just wrapped up sorting the top. At that time, he had a lot of ideas, but his body couldn't keep up. Now, he's starting to miss his family. He couldn't hold back his tears, thinking about his family and hoping he can endure a bit longer. Let's see how Chris is doing. His shelter's still just a frame, and it's clear it's a huge task. Chopping and hauling the wood is time-consuming, and building it is even more so. Chris thinks a well-made shelter. He'll be more comfortable during winter. Since it won't be done soon, he needs to save time for gathering food. Fishing would be ideal. Meanwhile, Anna has totally given up and spends most of her time in bed. She refused to move, only getting up to find food when she was starving. Her clothes were so dirty they reeked, and the stench nearly made her faint. Still, Anna decided to keep sleeping. Camilla is upgrading her shelter again, but the trees she needs are far away. Just transporting them is exhausting. Luckily, she has enough stored fat to keep going for a few more days. She can carry 2 logs at a time, definitely stronger than most people. As she works, Camilla thinks about what to do next. She usually handles physical tasks, moving things around in the store every day. Being out here makes her miss home even more. No matter how busy she was, she always felt fulfilled, unlike the confusion she feels in the wild. She needs a quiet but happy life. Simply put, she misses her girlfriend. The wood for the shelter is almost ready. She needs to eat something first. In her youth, she was fearless and would try anything you could imagine. Even though I don't play as much as before, I still enjoy a good challenge. I aim to push my limits in this survival test. At the moment, I have some mushrooms and cloudberry for a small snack. After eating and drinking, I need to rest as much as I can. Building a shelter is really exhausting. When I'm alone, I feel incredibly lonely and miss my family a lot. That's why survival contestants like to do crafts to pass the time. Loneliness can really drive you crazy. I wish my girlfriend were here. I could hold her and share stories. But unfortunately, I'm here for the challenge. Camilla doesn't want to think anymore. She forces herself to rest, hoping to see what she wants in her dreams. When I wake up tomorrow, I'll be recharged. Meanwhile, Lars heads to check the gill net, hopeful for a catch. Before going into the water, he prays for nature to gift him some food. He quickly pulls the gill net ashore. To his surprise, he actually caught a fish. It seems the prayer worked a bit. He immediately cleans the fish. The fish roe is amazing. You can't get it this fresh anywhere else. Too bad there's no bread to make it even better. There's a little survival trick. You can use spruce sap to wash dishes. It's way better than any dish soap. Now I can go back and cook the fish. If you prefer not to eat raw roe, just blanch it a bit to reduce the fishy taste. The nutritional value is really high. I recommend everyone to try it. The taste is very unique, a bit like raw egg. If combined with other ingredients, it would taste even better. Lars is pleased and hopes to catch more fish soon. Life is getting better and better. He's considering upgrading the shelter. The temperature will definitely drop further. If the shelter is warmer, I can sleep better and won't need to wake up at night to add firewood. Another issue for Lars, there's no decent toilet paper around. Spruce cones are out of the question, right? For now, the moss is a bit better, but it's always wet and makes my butt cold. He's thinking of just using water to clean. I wonder how the others are handling this. The camera then shows Jesper checking his fish trap by the shore. Unfortunately, there's nothing. He hasn't had meat for 7 days, and his body is getting weaker. He was about to head back to rest when he noticed some movement on the fishing line. To his surprise, it was an eel. He was thrilled. The eel tried to squirm back into the water, but Jesper wouldn't let it. He quickly cut off its head. Even so, it kept wriggling for a while, so he had to cook it quickly. He couldn't help but feel proud. It had been ages since he smelled meat, and he was tempted to eat it raw. He prepared the materials and lit the fire. Soon, he could watch the eel dance. Only fresh ones do that. The eel cooked this way would surely taste great. He couldn't even describe how good it was. He made sure to use all the fat. This was the survival he dreamed of. On day 8, Sonny checked the fish net. To his surprise, the net held for sizable fish. He wouldn't have to worry about hunger for the next few days. The only issue was the net kept getting tangled, and Sonny couldn't figure out why. It took ages to untangle each time. He was afraid the net might break one day. He quickly cleaned the fish and considered smoking them for storage. He secured the fish with a stick to prevent burning while roasting. It had been ages since he had this much food. He was overjoyed, constantly adding branches to the fire, hoping to smoke the fish quickly. Sonny didn't expect so much smoke. It was really choking. If it weren't for the fish, he would have put out the fire. The camera couldn't even capture him clearly. You can imagine how bad it was. Sonny stepped back to catch his breath and logged each fish he caught. At last, his days were improving. He hoped to catch more fish and fill up the stick. How many fish do you think Sonny can catch? The camera then turned to Jesper, who intended to check the fish net but stumbled upon some wild fruit. Naturally, he sampled some first. Despite having stored food, he felt fortunate. He saw nothing near the thorns. Jesper felt there weren't many fish here, so he chose to look elsewhere. Plus, the lack of a beach and the dangerous rocks made it risky. He'd fallen twice already and feared a serious injury, so he stuck to fishing with a rod. But after waiting ages, nothing happened. Then, I spotted a flock of geese. If only they'd come this way. Catching one could feed us for days. If I had a shotgun now, Jesper wouldn't have to worry about going hungry. Unfortunately, we're empty-handed. I just watched the geese fly away, feeling even hungrier. Lack of food really sours my mood. To make things worse, the fishing rod broke, so now I have to rely on the net. Jesper heads back to the shelter. He just wants to fix the bottom of the net right. It's the only thing cheering him up. He heats the net with a stick. Once it's ready, it will sound even better, but it takes patience. He makes sure the holes are clean. The process was smooth with no major problems. For his first attempt, he didn't expect it to go so well. He thinks he can make a few more to take back. He wonders if anyone would want them. He plans to give them away after the challenge. Meanwhile, Camilla heads to fish, hoping for a good catch. She shows up on the shore, completely naked. Though it's chilly, she prefers staying dry. Unfortunately, her fishing trip didn't go well. She heads back home to cook a fish, pairing it with some berries. She also spots some mice by the shore. Everyone debates whether to eat the mice. Satisfied, Camilla resumes work, determined to complete the shelter today. Her skills are impressive, and she's full of energy. Camilla keeps encouraging herself. In just a few more days, they'll be able to move in. Camilla begins telling everyone about the urine funnel, praising its usefulness for survival. No need to squat and risk mosquito bites, she strongly suggests it to the other women. Anna is faring a bit better. She had previously stored many mushrooms, drying and eating them when hungry, but they barely curb her cravings. Even after eating all the mushrooms, her stomach remains painfully empty. Despite gathering many early on, without meat, her body can't hold up. Plus, the mushrooms are starting to mold. It's best to eat them all in the next few days. At least it will make her stomach feel a bit better. A little white mold isn't a big problem. She cuts away all the moldy parts. She's unsure how long these will keep. Last time, she caught a fish, but had to share it. I'm feeling weaker by the day. This isn't what I expected from a survival challenge. I'm trying to use mushrooms as bait now. I hope I can catch some fish to eat. First, I'll get water to cook the mushrooms. Maybe I'll hallucinate little people dancing after eating them. The cooked mushrooms have an indescribable taste. Just see Anna's reaction. Eating them didn't help. I felt worse. Instead, I felt nauseous. Clearly, the mushrooms are problematic. Now, I lack the strength to gather wood. I hope I don't get sick and have to leave. Lars checked his fish traps too, but they were empty. This isn't good. For now, he can only collect spruce branches to make a bed. For him, it's okay to be hungry, but he must get good sleep. He knows he needs good sleep to keep his energy up. The bed looks good and feels comfortable. This challenge isn't like the last one. I'm not confident about breaking records. I often think about coming here to test myself. Last time, I was fully prepared, but still failed. Now, I feel like I'm just here to fill a spot. If I fail again, I'll just head home. Conversely, Chris is in higher spirits. He finds peace in the surrounding scenery, which soothes him. He doesn't worry much about food, just checks his traps daily, initially thinking the waves had washed them away. But there was a fish inside. Thank you, Mother Nature. He feels confident he can win again. The only problem is the fish is too small. I could probably eat it in one bite, but Chris is just glad to have some meat. Now he can focus on finishing his shelter. His shelter is probably the best among all the contestants. Even a family of 3 could live in it. The only drawback is that the project is too large for most people to finish. He just needs to add a waterproof top now. After all that effort, the cabin is finally done. What do you all think of this shelter? Chris even wants to add some decorations. Inviting other contestants to see real wilderness living would be awesome. He's as happy as a monkey. Chris is in a great mood. Finally, he can cook a fish to eat. It's very warm inside. The only problem is the smoke lingering inside. He needs to build a chimney soon to protect his health. Soon, visibility was poor as it was already dark outside. He'd have to fix it in the morning after covering it with the tarp. I hope to sleep well tonight. Camilla was already lying down, missing her family as night fell. She even considered quitting the challenge and might leave early. Anna felt the day had gone poorly. Her body grew increasingly weak, and she constantly debated quitting. She barely slept all night. She struggled to reach the 9th day. Jesper chose to explore new areas as resources were dwindling. If he stayed, he'd surely starve. He gathered his belongings and got ready to leave, hoping the journey would be worth it. Jesper grabbed all he could, focusing on his fishing rod, which needed minor fixes. He hoped it would still catch fish. If he had the strength, he might have to move to that area. He was prepared for failure and set out to explore the west. He wasn't in good health to start with, and after a bit of uphill walking, he was out of breath. I was really worried he might collapse. No one expected a surprise here. There were porcupine tracks on the ground. If he could hunt it, he wouldn't go hungry this week. Mushrooms were also available to gather, providing some food for the night. Jesper had lost track of how long he had been walking. At last, he heard running water and soon spotted a river. He hurried down to check it out. The surrounding surroundings here were a big improvement. It was ideal for fishing. Jesper cast his line and immediately got a bite. Although it was a small one, it proved there were plenty of fish here. Jesper fell in love with this place. But he needed to get back to the shelter before nightfall. Making this trip daily would wear him out. Jesper saw two trees close together and thought of his wife, which made him feel very low. He lost track of time while walking, but eventually made it back to the shelter to cook a proper meal. He tossed everything he had into the pot, and the stew came out well. He felt his body beginning to recover. The camera turned to Camilla, who aimed to catch some fish. She never ceased to be amazed by the scenery, no matter how often she visited. Today, she was lucky and caught a small fish. She thanked nature for its gift. Camilla returned to the shelter after a long day. The doctor disapproved of her urine drinking and wished she'd quit. Camilla, used to it, saw no issue. Back then, she was in great health, and the doctor couldn't change her mind, so he just wished her luck. Meanwhile, Sonny struggled with his fire pit. Yesterday, smoke filled the air. He tried to fix it today, but things got even worse. The fire almost got out of control, but luckily, Sonny was there to keep an eye on it. It seems more adjustments are needed. Anna finally checked her net today. She was lucky and caught 2 fish, even though she's a vegetarian. To complete the challenge, she might choose to eat the meat. Last time, Anna struggled with this decision for a long time. In the end, she placed the fish on the grass, insisting on staying vegetarian. Seriously, why set up a net then? Is she catching fish for other animals? I don't get her strategy. Now, what's Lars doing? He confidently prepared new bait for fishing, having spent a lot of time mastering it in past challenges. Later on, he caught quite a few fish. He believes he can do it again. He kept adjusting the stick and tied the fishing line to it. The most crucial part was bringing worms. If he still couldn't catch fish, Lars might as well go home. He immediately cast the hook into the water and soon caught a fish. It proved to be effective. If he keeps this up, Lars thinks staying another month won't be a problem. He was thrilled. He decides to fish here more frequently. That night, he enjoyed a delicious pot of fish as a reward. He felt revitalized. On the 10th day of the challenge, Lars was in high spirits. He planned to upgrade his fire pit, but decided to check the shore first. Yunzan caught another fish. Life was getting better for him. Next, he needed to gather materials to make a tripod for hanging a pot. The finished product looked pretty good. Chris showed everyone his shelter, where everything was neatly arranged. Today's main task was to set up the net. He used a tripod to secure it and tied the other side to a stick. This way, it could be easily spread and fixed. Hopefully, it would catch some fish. Anna continued her strategy of eating and then sleeping. She didn't even want to fetch water anymore, just drank some rainwater. Camilla was still busy building her shelter. She's gathering nearby moss to lay it down. With a bit more time, she'll make it great. Jesper's situation is more serious. There's just too little food to eat, and with all the recent overexertion, his body is really struggling. Now, forget fishing, even walking is tough. Sonny digs a trench, clueless about the others. Anyway, things are tough for him, and his mood is souring. Who knows who'll drop out next? Let's wait and see together. Day, Anna couldn't bear her own smell anymore. She desperately needed a wash. Since arriving, she'd lost a lot of weight and wasn't as curvy as before. Anna felt that if this continued, her body might not be able to take it. But if any of her friends wanted to lose weight, she'd totally suggest wilderness survival for quick weight loss. Today, she planned to move. The rain here was just too noisy, seriously affecting her sleep quality. So far, Anna hadn't moved into a new shelter. She had planned to sleep more and sit less, only moving when absolutely necessary. Shifting things around was exhausting. If she could, she'd love to lie down and rest, but the filming equipment was heavy. She didn't care much for the big shelter. Living in it felt especially empty. Moving everything far away took a lot of time. Anna was completely worn out. Sonny also felt he had lost a lot of weight. His pants were getting loose. He was quite satisfied with his shelter. He even crafted a lot of furniture, making it ideal for kids to vacation. That cloth served as his personal toilet paper. He typically wore it as a sleeve, but would use it as toilet paper when needed. You have to admit, Sonny is quite resourceful. Next door, he caught a big fish and was in a great mood. He immediately cleaned the fish, but there were too many bones. He intended to fry it and use the leftovers as bait. While most people preferred it raw, Sonny believed it tasted better cooked. However, once cooked, it tasted off. The smell was overwhelmingly fishy and stinky. Unable to bear it, he tossed it. Such a waste. Sonny felt a bit down. His stomach was already sunken in. He didn't know how much longer his body could hold out. He was very anxious. At the same time, Jesper was trying to reach the lake, but the water level had risen significantly. Fishing or setting nets was a hassle due to the high water. Spotting moose tracks, he wished he could hunt one. He doubted his bait would catch any fish. Jesper was really worried about this. He loved meditating and thinking, often exercising with his wife. His wife wants him to notify the show and quit early if he feels unwell. Jesper doesn't want to risk his health for the prize money, but he at least wants to outlast his previous attempt so it won't feel like a wasted trip. He's searching for a good fishing spot. Last time, he ate a lot of fish and even built a smokehouse, but he still couldn't make it to the end. Now, the pressure to find food is intense. He didn't expect to catch any fish here, but he was pleasantly surprised. He caught a small fish, and today's catch was decent. It would last him a few days. The fish roe was particularly tasty. It would make great sushi. Back home, he could stir-fry it with mushrooms. The aroma would be amazing. Jesper highly recommends everyone try it. Even without any seasoning, the natural flavor is already fantastic. He put the fish directly into his mouth and felt revitalized. Wild-caught fish just tastes better. It's completely different from store-bought fish. He felt like he could catch a few more. Lars, on the other hand, was struggling. With the increasing rain, his shelter area turned into a swamp. Water kept seeping in. The ditches he dug were already full, so Lars had to dig deeper and extend them outside. If things got worse, he might need to relocate. He had the same problem last time when his shelter got too wet. He had to relocate. Lars planned to dig more ditches first, hoping his shelter would hold up. If possible, he really didn't want to move. Finding a new spot and moving everything would take a lot of time and energy. After a lot of hard work, he finally finished the drainage ditches and now had to wait and see how the light rain would impact them. All he wanted was to lie down and rest. Meanwhile, the river near Chris had risen a lot. The water outlet kept hitting the bank, and he worried it might affect his fishing. The water was already mixing. He expected to go hungry today, but to his surprise, he caught a fish, proving his method worked somewhat. He eagerly eyed the fish in his hand, ready to take a bite. Meanwhile, Camilla had cut down a small willow tree to craft a simple drying rack. It was easy to make. She wove the willow branches into a round frame and made a few adjustments to finish. The finished product looked great. She quickly placed mushrooms on it and lit a fire to smoke them. She really missed her girlfriend. Last time he came for the challenge, their relationship improved a lot. Although wilderness survival is tiring, they still had a sweet time. When he's by himself, he feels particularly lonely and wonders what she's up to. Camilla's spirits are sinking. It looks like she might want to give up. On day 12, after Anna moved to her new shelter, her sleep improved and her mood lifted. She even showed off her coat on camera. This coat is her most prized possession. It's so warm she could sleep in a freezer without any issues. For friends who like to play in the north, Anna recommends this coat. Sometimes it even gets too hot. To successfully complete this challenge, she researched for a long time. Whether it's tools or clothes, everything was carefully selected. Facing the Norwegian environment, Anna is quite confident she can last a few more days. But if she continues with a vegetarian diet, her body won't sustain. She has to take it one day at a time. Anna is still introducing her coat. She likes it so much. If her stomach wasn't growling, she could talk about it until dark. Anna is already looking forward to snowy days. Now it's time to collect some berries to eat. This whole area is full of berries. Before winter, she can collect and store more. Wearing the coat, she sweats a lot even after a short walk. She can't stand it and has to take it off. She hurries to collect more berries. These should last her a while. So, you're not going to hunt for meat? Anna's gathered plenty of berries and enjoys the view while eating. She thinks these days aren't too bad. The scenery here makes her feel more relaxed for some reason. Jesper is still adjusting his flute. There's a slight problem with his whistle. He keeps observing and figuring out how to fix it. Recently, he found a pipe on the road. This might be made into a new flute. He just needs to drill holes in it. After a little try, it can make a sound, proving it can be made into a flute. He was busy until sunset. Then he realized he needed food and could only snack nearby. He really enjoys this place. He hopes to stay here a bit longer. Camilla plans to gather moss today and finish the shelter in the next few days. The weather's been worsening lately, and I'm worried the temporary shelter won't hold up. This project is a huge task. Chopping wood alone is exhausting, and there's still so much to do. Camilla's body is starting to protest. I need more food and rest. Chris's net caught another fish, and it looks pretty decent. If we keep this up, I'm sure we can finish the challenge, but we had some trouble getting the net out. I'm not sure why the net got stuck. Yanking it won't help and might rip it apart. Chris had to take his time and be careful. If this net is ruined, I might have to call it quits early. After a lot of effort, I finally got the net up, but some parts are already unusable. Now Chris is stumped on how to repair it, and his mood keeps sinking. It would be a real shame to quit the challenge like this. Camilla is occupied with fishing. She considered trying a deeper spot to catch something and maybe clean up a bit. Surprisingly, she caught a fish this way and is getting more used to this life. Sonny also had a successful catch, but each time he pulls it out, he fears the net might break eventually. Lars is quite pleased with his shelter. It's nearly dark, and he plans to test his luck with fishing. He admits the bait works great. In no time, he caught a fish. As long as he has enough bait, this isn't fishing, it's stocking up. It's really just about having hands. On day 13, Chris plans to find a flat rock for a fireplace. Only a flat surface will do. After some selection and moving, he can now set up the fireplace. It's all about arranging the stones right, with a slight tilt for better effect. He also crafted a hook to hang the pot. The kitchen area is nearly finished. To keep smoke out of his nose, he needs to cut a hole in the waterproof cloth. Chris is a bit worried about cutting too much, in case rainwater flows in. After all this work, it's finally done. Anna's hair hasn't been cleaned in ages, and she needs a clean cloth to wipe it. She had planned her daily tasks before arriving here, but in reality, she's either looking for food or lying in bed sleeping. Plans never keep up with changes. When I'm bored, my mind wanders and I get depressed. It's better to just force myself to sleep more. Anna finds this challenge perplexing and tends to overthink during her downtime. Surviving here isn't for everyone. Even though it's my second time, I still can't get used to this place. I usually love biking and painting. Now it feels like I'm stuck here, and sleeping is my only comfort. Camilla's moving to her new home today. I still need to fell some trees for the roof. It brings back memories of building with my girlfriend. We argued a lot back then. This time, building alone went much smoother. Now I just need to cover it with moss. After all this work, the shelter is finally finished. I can't wait for my girlfriend to see it. Now I can move in and start living here. I completed this all by myself. I feel a great sense of accomplishment. I wonder what everyone thinks of it. Sunnis for nets came up empty today. He's planning to cut down more trees. His only company is the camera. If this keeps up, I'll lose my mind eventually. A single tree lasts 2 to 3 days. The workload remains heavy. Food is scarce, and I'm getting weaker. Sonny is still figuring out how to catch something. Chris isn't happy with his chimney. He wishes he had some clay to secure it, but there's nothing suitable around. Let me see how the smoke is doing. It's working better than I thought. I never expected it to be this cozy. Next, I need to get more food. It's day 14 of the challenge. Sonny is in a good mood today. He quickly fixed his gel nails, and they looked great. Everyone enjoys a bit of pampering, regardless of age. Sonny plans to get his nails done when he gets back. They're almost worn out here. Lars keeps thinking about how to do better next. The shelter and food are okay for now, but I'm not sure if I can make it to the end. I've definitely gotten better since the last challenge. First, I'll put on my clothes and check the shore. Hopefully, I can catch some fish. If not, I'll come back and open the roof. Then I can crawl in and sleep. This is basically how I spend every day. Lars thinks as long as there are no major issues, I can stay here for another month. After resting enough, I'll check the nets. Usually, I can get some food. Lars's day can be summed up as either sleeping or looking for food, occasionally washing clothes. The weather is getting colder, making it harder to get into the water. He does his best to stay fresh. Anna's mental state is deteriorating. She doesn't know what to do next and has been surviving on minimal food. If this continues, her body might not hold up. She can't even relax and sleep, constantly thinking about random things. She even wrote her own obituary, worried she might die here without saying a proper goodbye to everyone. Given Anna's current mental state, an accident is very likely. Sonny is still diligently collecting firewood, unsure of how much is enough. She plans to gather until she can't carry anymore. The fishing nets are relatively stable, as long as she can catch fish. She can keep going, but every time she retrieves the nets, she fears the cold might affect her health. Sadly, she didn't catch anything this time and will need to try again later. For now, she just wants to get back and warm up. Her toes are so cold they're almost numb. Jesper plans to build a sauna. He hasn't relaxed in a long time. First, he needs to find a good spot, ideally near the shore for easy water access. Despite catching some fish, his health hasn't improved. Even walking makes him short of breath, so he has to slow down. He has no idea how long he's been walking, but he ends up back at the start. Jesper loves it here. He arrived with confidence, but now he sees how hard it's been to get this far. He's unsure how much longer he can endure. He aims to beat his previous record and finish the sauna by tomorrow, the 15th day of the challenge. Chris started his day early, enjoying the scenery. If it weren't for his growling stomach, he could watch all day. Rested and ready, Jesper spots big fish jumping in the lake and wonders if the nets hold a surprise. When he reaches the shore, he still sees big fish around. He quickly checks the nets and finds a big fish. It's likely the biggest fish yet, though still smaller than those from the last challenge. Regardless, there's fish to eat. And Jesper is thrilled. Camilla has finished setting up her new shelter and is moving her belongings. Crossing the river was a hassle, requiring at least 5 or 6 trips to complete. It made him dizzy after a while. In moments like these, he longed for his girlfriend's help. Handling everything solo was draining. The crew was due for another check on the participants. Everyone had shed a lot of weight. While it wasn't critical enough to make anyone quit yet, if this continued, someone might have to leave at the next checkup. The crew gave advice and encouragement, hoping everyone could continue. When the crew departed, they collected the camera cards. Anna's footage stood out this time. The doctor reviewed her report and was very worried. If she continued alone, something might go wrong. For safety reasons, the crew decided to have a talk. Although Anna kept smiling, she was very fragile inside. Even though she said she wrote it just in case, from the doctor's perspective, Anna's mental state was not good. She didn't expect the crew to come back. She was deeply moved. The crew couldn't let Anna stay in the wild. Her recordings were too negative, so they decided to make Anna leave the challenge. She was very calm when she heard the news. She told the staff she understood. It seemed she had already wanted to go home. She just couldn't stay any longer. Hopefully, she'll recover well at home. With Anna gone, only 5 participants remained. For Sunny, staying warm constantly occupied her thoughts. With the dropping temperatures, she felt increasingly cold. She had previously quit a challenge due to the cold. She was determined to avoid that experience again. She decided to arrange stones for a fire pit, inspired by other survivalists. However, tree roots were everywhere, making digging tough. She was already regretting it. She needed to pause and collect herself. Unsure of how many were still in the game, she was beginning to long for home. Chris didn't let even a small fish go to waste, planning to fry it up. He thought it would be better used as bait. After cooking, he immediately tasted it. It was good, but there wasn't much meat. The crew worried about the participants' skills and provided a luba tank for safety. Camilla felt much warmer with it. Lars woke up at night to use the bathroom and misplaced his gloves. The constant dripping from the shelter was the most irritating, disrupting his sleep. Lars is on the brink of madness. It's day 16, and Jesper has everything ready. Today, I must finish building the sauna. This circle is just for praying, hoping nature will protect me. Building the sauna isn't very difficult, as long as it can fit one person. Sunny's fishing net still hasn't caught any fish. There's no better way now, just leave it here and hope for luck. Unexpectedly, when I came back, I saw a small fish on it. The fish was really too small. I couldn't bear to eat it, so I put it back in the water. I hope the fish returns to repay me when it's bigger. Chris would have eaten it immediately. He really needs the food. He's losing more and more weight. I'm worried he might have to leave. Jesper's sauna is ready, just waiting for the stones to heat up. This one is already well roasted. Now I can go in and enjoy it. I wish my wife were here. I picked up my new flute and started playing. This life is really wonderful. I also cleaned the dirt off my body. I wish I could stay in here forever. I wonder what exciting things will happen next. Let's wait and see together. It's day 16 now. Jesper loves the steam room and would stay there forever, especially when stressed. He recommends everyone try it out. It instantly relaxes you. Jesper feels he has no regrets about this challenge. Then he went to the lake to pray, hoping to wash away his bad luck. He felt much lighter afterward. He wonders about the other contestants but feels great himself. Sunny is in a good mood. He plans to explore the original spot. He has to admit the water here is really sweet and pure, untouched by pollution. Walking upstream, the scenery is indeed beautiful. His mood keeps getting better. If he could come here every day to take a look, his legs might give out. Sunny misses his family. Sitting there, he suddenly feels sad. He decides to return and set up the next net. With the water much colder now, it's better to avoid getting in to set it. He's very worried about freezing. Preparing the net took ages. He warms up quickly afterward. When he's bored, he even messes around at midnight. Sunny's in a great mental state. Is he setting a trap? I can't tell what he's doing. Suddenly, Sunny kicks out. Wow, he really was just playing around. Should we call a doctor to check on him? Lars is ready to chop down some trees. Today, he must fix the roof. The recent rain has been keeping him up at night. He believes that cutting down this tree will solve the problem. The noise will stop once the tree is down. Lars grabs the saw, mindful of where the tree will fall. It wouldn't be good if it hit the shelter or him. He cuts a notch first, then saws from the other side. He keeps it steady to avoid tilting. Soon, the tree falls much smoother than he expected. Lars is in a great mood. Let's see if the rain will still be noisy. Camilla is now extremely tired. The new shelter is worse than she imagined. Even with aluminum foil, the nights remain freezing. It feels like all our time and effort have been wasted. All I want is to lie down and rest, but the challenge continues. We gather loads of firewood daily. My body keeps weakening, but in wilderness survival, mindset is key. Staying positive is crucial. You can always get through tough times. I just miss my girlfriend and wonder how she's doing. I really want to hug her. The camera shifts to Chris. He wakes up and goes to the lake to get some water. As the weather gets colder, even his boots don't feel warm anymore. Upon closer look, he sees the sole of his boot is falling apart. No wonder it feels like he's barefoot. He must fix it. Every day brings new problems, and Chris feels overwhelmed. He can't let negativity take over. He must adapt swiftly. Lars is checking the fishing nets, which keep snagging on the rocks. He has to strip down and wade into the freezing water, wondering if the fish have moved to deeper areas. After much effort, he finally finishes. Doing this daily would drive him nuts. It's actually his birthday today. In past years, he would have everyone over to celebrate. Now, he's alone and feeling down, especially missing the big dinner feast. The more he dwells on it, the hungrier he becomes. He needs more food, but for now, he can only drink water and wish himself a happy birthday. Jesper wraps up his fun and returns to the survival challenge, needing to pass through a gate to officially begin. I must admit, the ceremony is quite impressive. Jesper's in high spirits, indifferent to winning or losing. Meanwhile, Camilla is struggling. She's contacted the production team multiple times, and her mood keeps deteriorating. Crafting is the only thing that suits her. It's day 17, and the weather keeps getting colder. The contestants are struggling to adapt. They have to layer up and keep the fire going, hoping it keeps them warm. At least the mosquitoes are gone. Before, the constant buzzing in your ears and mosquito bites all over were unbearable. Even using fire couldn't keep them away. A simple hand wave could kill a few, impacting mood and sleep. Who knows what winter will bring? Hopefully, it won't impact the fish here. The contestants are waiting for warmer weather before heading out. Camilla, for instance, wants to sleep in before starting her tasks. Naturally, some, like Kaz, push themselves to begin. The main task today is to enhance the shelter for winter by stacking the walls higher. This way, they won't have to worry about the cold wind. He picks flat stones and fills the gaps with moss. Surviving in the wild isn't for everyone. Even on my second try, it's still tough. Camilla is busy fixing the top of the shelter. I'm really worried she might fall. I was surprised by Camilla's agility as she jumped around effortlessly. After a lot of effort, she set up multiple shelters. This way, they can stay dry. Meanwhile, Lars is done with his shelter and feeling great. Sunny decides to set up for nets to test his luck. Soon, he feels a tug and quickly reels them in. He hauls in 4 sizable fish at once, lifting his spirits as he realizes he won't go hungry for days. Sunny feels his luck improving. With 4 fish from 1 set of nets, he thinks he could easily stay another month. Chris gets ready to check his other nets, wondering if the cold will impact his catch. To his dismay, he finds just 1 small fish. This can't go on. He's growing weaker by the day. Mushrooms are all he can find, but food is still scarce. Collecting all these mushrooms might only last 3 or 4 days. Plus, snails also eat the mushrooms. I'm worried the fire might ruin the mushrooms. My pants are getting loose as I lose weight, so I need to punch a new hole in my belt. If I keep losing weight like this, the show might make me leave. I need to find more food. Lars caught a tiny fish, barely enough for a bite. He has to return to work. He chops the wood into firewood, but with food becoming scarcer, he has no energy left. He really misses the delicious food at home. Thinking about those burgers and barbecues makes his stomach growl louder. He regrets joining this survival challenge. Isn't the bed at home warm enough, or the phone entertaining? Yet, he keeps working hard. This wood pile will likely only last for tonight. He spends a lot of time on this daily and needs to sun-dry it a bit. Earlier, after bathing, his underwear wouldn't dry. The sun isn't enough in this weather, so using fire is better. I hope to change into clean underwear soon. Camilla monitors her body daily, despite losing a lot of weight. Her digestive system is actually fine, even better than at home. It's truly unbelievable. Last time, her stomach was in bad shape during the challenge. She needed hospital treatment after the last challenge. She credits the editor for her renewed energy. She's so happy, she wants to tell the doctor immediately. Meanwhile, Jesper is pondering ways to perfect his flute. The tune he played at the steam house now sounds off. He hopes it will sound better once it's dried. He's sitting here meditating and thinking. Although it helps him relax, the cold wind on his face is really chilling. Sitting here isn't quite effective. He quickly gets ready and heads to the shore, feeling the ritual's importance. No wonder he's famous for his instrument. He trusts that his dedication will lead to nature providing him with food. Next, he must chop down a tree. Lars is crafting a windbreak for the fire pit to keep it from blowing out and prevent sparks from spreading. He has to add some moss. The finished product looks pretty good. He feels like a pirate captain. Being out here for so long, the contestants' mental states are a bit off, but Lars is having a lot of fun. Sunny feels his mood isn't great. No matter how much food he gets, he still feels weak. His body is getting weaker, and he can't figure out why. He just worries the cold might impact his challenge. Sunny aims to stay longer this time. Previously, he got so cold in the cave that he needed a hospital stay to recover. This time, he needs to stay warm and avoid getting too cold. He hopes things will improve. Jesper is about to burn the door. If you're confused, just ask. For him, the ritual ends here. Is he thinking of going home? He just waits quietly for it to burn. His mind is calmer than ever. Even the steam house has been dismantled. Finally, Jesper jumps over the fire pit, saying he's ready for a new challenge, as long as he's happy. Last time, most contestants quit around the 1-month mark. Only Chris lasted 44 days. So, everyone is determined to make it through this month. Jesper believes he has a solid shot. The contestants have limited food supplies, so they all try to make sure they eat something daily. Chris really misses having a fridge at home. Food is running low, and no matter how much you eat, hunger persists. Sunny, however, is tired of fish after years of eating it. Lars is stretching one fish over multiple meals, but it just leaves him hungrier. Camilla held a small celebration for herself. She hopes this will ease her hunger. Lately, she's only found berries to eat, and her situation is worsening. She misses home a little. Who knows what everyone thinks about being stuck here? Sunny used to sleep well. A sudden gust woke him, making it seem like the shelter might collapse. They just managed to reach day 18. Everyone woke up to worsening weather, which particularly impacted the fishing nets. They worried the waves might wash them ashore. Next, they needed to secure the waterproof tarps with heavy objects. Losing them to the wind would be disastrous. Lars had it the worst. His roof was already blown off. He had to rearrange everything, but didn't think it was a big problem. He figured propping it up with branches would solve the problem. On Sunny's side, the winds were so fierce it felt like he might be swept away. Unsure if the rocks would secure the tarp, he gathered as many as possible and tied them with ropes. He hoped this would hold. Lars did the same, constantly weighing down with rocks. Camilla found her tarp a bit troublesome. No matter how she positioned it, it didn't work. Using trees for support made tying and lifting easier. She gave it a try. It worked quite well. Chris went for a simpler, more forceful approach, directly tying the top with ropes. Even if the shelter flew away, it wouldn't come apart. He felt this would hold. Jesper wasn't worried at all. Instead, he relaxed, enjoying the view, wishing the typhoon would intensify and send the other contestants home. Such experiences are unique to wilderness survival. While he enjoys the adventure, he's even more eager to return home. The other contestants are struggling too, all eager to return home. Jesper gazes at a photo, deeply missing his wife. He didn't realize he had signaled the crew to come. Everyone speculated who would quit first. It turned out to be Jesper. In hindsight, it makes sense. He could relax in a steam room every day, but he tore it down and even burned the ceremonial door. Feeling unwell and missing his wife, he chose to withdraw and head home soon. He's unsure how many contestants remain, but wishes them all the best. He won't return for another challenge. In the future, he'll wait for his son to grow up and hopefully win. Jesper himself has plenty of survival experience. His ex-wife also had a great attitude, but her age and declining physical condition led to her deteriorating state. Ultimately, they decided to leave the challenge. With 4 contestants left, who do you think will win the prize? The remaining contestants stay busy to fend off loneliness. Despite the large waves. Despite the rough waves, he believes he can still catch fish. To his surprise, the net is full. It seems the bigger the waves, the more fish there are. The fish kept getting larger, so he won't go hungry this week. Can anyone identify this fish? For him, as long as it's edible, it's fine. He was so happy he started dancing, grateful for nature's gift. He hopes his luck continues. Camilla caught an eel. Though she often eats fish, this was her first time handling one herself. She used her experience to prepare and cook it. The cooked meat smelled great. In the wild, as long as the fish is edible, it will always smell delicious no matter how you cook it. Camilla thoroughly enjoyed the meat, while Chris, having not caught fish in ages, felt lost. Lars cleaned all the fish and planned to have a big meal tonight to reward himself. He was in a great mood. He wished he could share with the others. Meanwhile, Chris boiled some leaves to fill his stomach. They looked fine, but tasted a bit spicy. He longed for the days when he could catch fish. He hoped to catch some tomorrow, or his body might not hold up. On the 19th day of the challenge, Camilla felt very unwell last night, possibly because of the eel. Her mental state was quite poor. She regretted eating the eel, but not eating would mean losing too much weight. She felt the challenge was really tough and could only rest more in the shelter. Lars ate a lot of fish. He felt fantastic and believed he could last another month easily. He wondered if the others had food. He invited them to try some. Sunny attempted shore fishing, but his net was totally wrecked. Fixing it is a pain. The water is freezing every time he goes in. Using the rod against the wind is tougher than he thought. Sunny has tried repeatedly without luck. Lars's fishing net has come up empty too, which has lowered his spirits. He decides to hike up the mountain to search for mushrooms. After walking for a while, Lars suddenly feels unwell. He has to return to the shelter to rest. Despite eating so much fish, he still feels exhausted for some reason. The shelter looks a bit flimsy. It's uncertain if it will hold up in winter. Food might not be stockpiled much, but everyone can still try to make the shelter more comfortable. The most practical items are chairs and beds. Crafting them properly can boost morale. Chris aims to build a large bed. Not everyone knows this, but his biggest hobby is buying boats. He hopes to build one himself someday, so he really wants to win the prize money. First, he sets up the frame to ensure it can support the weight. Then he places sticks and branches on top. Next, he tries lying on it. The result is better than expected. Meanwhile, Camilla is making a chair. This is much simpler. She first makes 2 triangular frames, then crosses them together. Sitting on it feels pretty good. Sunny made some moss pillars and soaked a cloth in them. This makes it smell much better. Lars is lying down, taking in the view. He doesn't want to waste energy exploring, so he just rests his body. Chris's dinner is quite bland, and he's tired of it. Without more fish, his body won't hold up. It's the 20th day of the challenge. Lars still has some food left, but it smells a bit off. He tries to smoke it to cover the smell, but it doesn't work well. He almost smoked himself out. Chris starts collecting food again. There are only some berries and mushrooms nearby. He survives on these. His ability to endure hunger is quite impressive. Sunny's main task today is to fix the fire pit, trying to make the shelter warmer. He lights a fire inside, but the smoke lingers. It feels like it might ignite the waterproof cloth. On day 20, Sunny woke up and began fishing, despite his limited experience with a rod. After many failed tries, he was ready to quit when a fish suddenly bit. He yanked it up with all his might. The fish was bigger than expected. It took quite an effort to reel it in. Sunny was overjoyed, thinking fishing was easier than he thought. Had he known, he wouldn't have used the gill net. The fish was so large, he needed a rock to subdue it. Finally, it settled down. Sunny struck the fish a few more times. Wow, it's longer than his arm. This might be his biggest catch yet. No need to worry about hunger for a few days. Russ planned to build a smoke rack to keep the fish longer. Otherwise, overeating could cause stomach issues. Just need to gather branches and set it up. Hope it holds. Chris has been braving the wind for days. Despite sticking to a vegetarian diet, his mood remains positive. He wanted to make a table to have more space to store things. After some hard work, he had the box set up. It looked much better this way. Camilla was also considering making a rack, otherwise, things were hard to store. He missed his girlfriend daily, as they'd never been apart this long. Once the rack was finished, it was a big improvement. He placed his girlfriend's gift on the rack, ready to take home. Daily, he gathered and chopped firewood. The stench on him was overpowering, so he planned to burn his clothes when he got home. He had the same problem in the last challenge, and it made him sick. No way he was putting that in the pot. If it came to that, he might as well head home. Camilla then saw a dragonfly on her clothes. Was it drawn by the smell? Every participant was doing their best to live better. So far, everyone was doing pretty well. They should be fine before winter. Who knows what will happen next? Russ's smoke rack was working well. The fish on it were perfectly fine. No matter how many fish we catch, we won't waste any. Smoking them all day means they'll last through winter. I tasted a piece, and it's amazing. The flavor is incredible, just like store-bought. Sunny's fish is huge. He plans to cut it up and eat it gradually. He cooked a piece to fill up, but it turned into shredded meat. Maybe it tastes better that way? Anyway, he was thrilled with his meal. Sunny thinks he has a solid shot at finishing. I wonder how many are still in the game. I hope this challenge wraps up soon. I'm really missing my husband. Plus, I think I might be coming down with a cold. I hope I recover quickly. Chris still hasn't caught any fish with his gill net. If this keeps up, he won't last. I don't know if it's the net or if the fish have moved away. Either way, I need to find a solution. On day 21, Camila started her day with yoga to refresh herself, while Lars spotted some squirrels nearby. Unfortunately, without a bow and arrow, he couldn't hunt them. He could only check the fish net. Chris hasn't had meat for days. His weight loss is alarming. It feels like the show might force him to quit. And still, no catch in the gill net. His mood is terrible, and he wants to quit early. Meanwhile, Sunny has all he needs. For some reason, he just can't feel happy. Now, he can only gather some firewood. Sunny has actually stockpiled quite a bit. He's worried about waking up cold at night and misses his husband more each day. His mood is much lower than when he first got here. He's lost a lot of weight. The firewood pile is getting higher. Sunny wants to finish the challenge soon. Lars stripped down and entered the water, aiming to relocate the net for better fishing. The water is already quite cold. He was shivering. After setting up, he quickly warmed himself up. These days will continue until winter. He returned to the shelter to warm up. Each time he goes into the water, it's shorter than the last. He refuses to give up due to the cold. On day 22, Sunny felt a bit better. At least food isn't a concern. Lars wants to try a new net setting method since he found a chain earlier. It's a great opportunity to test it. This should prevent the net from being washed ashore. Lars believes it's a solid plan. After making some tweaks, Lars headed to the shore to try again, using a heavier stone to keep it in place. Chris is fishing here and really needs a catch today, or he'll have to pack up and go home. Suddenly, he felt a tug on the line. He quickly reeled it in and, to his surprise, caught a fish. It was thrilling. It seems there are fish here. He just had some bad luck before. Just as he sat down to reflect, he felt another tug on the rod. To his amazement, he landed another fish. Feeling lucky, Chris decided to try for a few more, but then the hook snagged, wiping away his smile. After his tasks, Sunny paused to take in the view. At this moment, he just wants to sit quietly and do nothing. Even though he's managing well, he constantly feels a pull towards home. His mood kept worsening, so he went back to eat some fish, treating himself to a big piece. Life here isn't so bad, actually. Lars waded into the water to set up a fish net, targeting a deeper spot to catch more fish. The water was chilly, and Lars knew it would take a toll on him. Still, he felt the challenge wasn't too tough. At least the food situation was decent. Camila often dreamed about her girlfriend and the meals waiting for her. Her stomach growled loudly. She felt ravenous. Meanwhile, Chris remained determined to fish. He hoped there'd be more fish at night, but there weren't. He had to head back and rest. It was now day 23 of the challenge. Lars felt a bit unwell. Staff would come to check on them weekly, and it was his only chance to chat. It always lifted his spirits. Being alone in the wild was really tough, and negative thoughts would creep in. For a social person like him, being here was especially tough. He missed his family and really wanted to go home. Sunny aimed to fish for big catches today, but the hook kept snagging on rocks, making him fear the line would snap. After multiple tries, he lost the hook and got really mad. Chris woke up to check his fishing rod. Although there were no fish, as long as the hook was still there, he had hope. He started by lighting the fire. Next, he checked the net and, to his surprise, found a big fish. He was ecstatic. This was his largest catch yet. It had been tough, but he felt things were finally improving. This catch marked a crucial turning point. Lars had already prepared the fish for his own meals. The fresh fish roe, being highly nutritious, was best eaten raw for maximum benefits, though lightly cooking it was also an option. By doing this, the fishy taste would be milder. Feeling revitalized, he hoped it wasn't just a placebo. Then, he planned to preserve the fish meat. He felt he had enough food for now, and the mosquito net would help it last longer. He began imagining how he'd spend the prize money. Could anyone be doing better? Past winners had endured for ages, and victory was still a ways off. He hoped people wouldn't celebrate too soon. It was the 24th day of the challenge, and Christmas Day. Sunny felt especially cheerful and decided to decorate a tree with fish hooks, which looked quite nice, to celebrate. He adorned the tree with them, which cheered him up. He even began singing to celebrate, though he felt a bit homesick. In the past, they all gathered for the holidays. Now, he could only look at photos, which made him feel sad. Camila woke up feeling not so great. The environment was too oppressive, and staying longer was unbearable. She remembered past challenges with her girlfriend by her side. Her mood was worsening now. It didn't improve even by nightfall. Camila had run out of food and really wanted to go home and rest. Since catching the fish, Chris's health had improved significantly. He didn't even waste the fish bones. He made sure to eat everything, even the bones, and felt content while doing so. By the 25th day, the weather was turning colder. The participants had to wear more clothes, sensing a storm was coming. Sunny didn't sleep well and had a high heart rate. Lars was overwhelmed and very anxious. Camila prayed, considering quitting the challenge. Chris was still working on his big fish and felt upbeat. Jim got a call from a participant. Everyone wondered who it could be. No one expected it to be Sunny, given he had caught plenty of fish and had good shelter and food. Everything was well prepared, but he lacked adequate warmth. The biggest issue was missing his family too much. He couldn't bear the wilderness any longer, it was too overwhelming. Sunny had already shown significant improvement from the last challenge. It's a shame he didn't finish. What score does Sunny deserve now? If he had pushed a bit more, I think he had a good chance of winning. After Sunny left, only 3 participants remained. Who do you think has the best shot now? Camila didn't draw the card to leave, so she has to keep going. She might leave in a few days, but that's okay. She'll keep going until she can't. Her stomach feels off, like it's churning. Nuts are the only thing that help a bit. This has led to some unpleasant bowel movements lately. It doesn't look great. Camila uses this to gauge her digestive health. She believes the issue isn't severe and she can continue. It's now day 26 of the challenge. Many large birds flew overhead, suggesting an abundance of fish below. Camila was lost in thought when a mouse suddenly showed up. She quickly grabbed a stick and struck at the mouse. If it bit her, it could be disastrous, especially for her sleeping bag. Hopefully, it won't return. It's time to see what's happening by the ditch. To her surprise, she found a fish right away at the shore, lifting her spirits. Chris also had a successful catch with his 4 nets. It was a bountiful season. He immediately took out the fish roe. Despite the fishy smell, eating it raw was okay. This boosted his confidence in winning. He missed his kids and their story times. He wondered if they missed him too and really wanted to finish the challenge soon. Russ had some smoked fish left, but talking to the camera made him feel even lonelier. Camila was struggling too. Despite her rigorous training, everything changed once she got here. There were too many things she couldn't control, often affecting her mood. The challenge reached day 27. The crew came to deliver some bad news. Severe weather was expected soon, and they wouldn't be able to provide support. They hoped the participants would stay safe and hold on until the storm passed, even if their lives were at risk. Only then could the crew come to help. They worried the shelters might flood. The mood instantly grew heavy. This meant they had to be cautious with fishing and collect the nets early. They weren't sure if their food would last through the storm. Reinforcing the shelter is crucial now. They can't afford for it to be blown away. Lars decides to start from the top. As long as no water drips in, the shelter should be fine. Chris sees this as an opportunity to eliminate other contestants. He gets ready to reweave some ropes. Camila considers reinforcing her shelter, feeling it's unreliable. Reinforcing it is quite a hassle. An accident occurred, but she wasn't hurt. Still, the shelter is in poor condition. She can only add more branches to weigh it down, but it still feels unstable, so she also uses stones to secure it. She's unsure if it will hold. Missing her girlfriend more now, she'd feel safer if she were here. Besides reinforcing the shelter, firewood is also very important. Lars now needs to stockpile more berries. Given the storm, the nearby fish have likely swum away. The tasks are quite demanding for him. Luckily, there are lots of berries around. Gathering enough should sustain him. Lars can't figure out why he feels off. Suddenly, he feels queasy, but pushes through the discomfort. He soon finds another bunch of berries and quickly gathers them. Soon, his bag is full. Now Lars needs to dig the drainage ditch deeper. There are still many things to do. Lars feels immense pressure. Chris has already reinforced his shelter and collected more firewood. He aims to endure the storm and makes sure to collect the nets, as no one wants to miss out on catching fish. Luckily, he caught some fish earlier. Chris can stay in his shelter and eat fish, living quite comfortably. The weather is worsening. Everyone has reinforced their shelters. Now, it's a question of enduring the storm. Camila isn't so lucky. She feels her shelter is shaky. She's afraid the storm will destroy everything. Lars digs the ditch late into the night, forming a small lake. When the storm arrives, he worries it won't hold. The challenge hits day 28 with heavy rain outside. It's not too violent yet, so Lars can still head to the shore to observe. The water level has risen a lot, and Lars needs to get the nets. The show team sends another notice to stress this. They hope the contestants stay in their shelters and don't go out. At least for 2 days, they can't go fishing. This is quite disheartening for Lars. Camila has been sleeping in her shelter, oblivious to the outside. Her shelter is holding up well so far. The mice have returned, leaving droppings everywhere, which really angers him. As long as they stay out of the sleeping bag, it's tolerable. Lars is pleased with his drainage ditch, while the others struggle with swampy conditions around their shelters. They need to dig a ditch to drain the water, highlighting Lars's invaluable experience. He had already waterproofed his shelter. Now he can eat some oatmeal with berries to regain his energy. Lars thinks everything tastes good right now. Camila resumes collecting firewood, uncertain of the storm's duration. Everyone has made their preparations. Who do you think has prepared the best? It's now the 29th day, and the storm has significantly calmed down. Despite the high water level, Lars is determined to fish. Preparing took him a long time. He's waiting for the fish to come tomorrow when he suddenly feels dizzy. Overworked, he has to sit down and rest. Meanwhile, Chris eats fish in his shelter, ready to endure hunger, hoping it will help him win. Who do you think will last the longest? Let's wait and see. On day 30, Lars didn't think eating a fish head would break his tooth. It turns out his body isn't in great shape. He'll need to replenish himself properly when he gets back. Hopefully, this won't impact the rest of his challenge. The storm hit, and the crew informed the contestants. They were told to stay in their shelters and avoid the water. Lars, however, ignored this advice. He planned to check his fish net, thinking that just checking it from the shore wouldn't be too risky. He wasn't expecting to catch any fish, he just hoped the net wasn't damaged. Soon, Lars reached the shore to inspect it. It seemed like there wasn't much impact, just a slight rise in water level. The net was intact and even had a fish in it. Lars felt lucky to catch a fish despite the odds. Meanwhile, Camilla decided to stay in. Resting in the shelter was a smart move. Catching the mice was crucial, she couldn't let them steal her food. She feared the mice would damage her sleeping bag. Losing it here would spell failure, so she needed to eliminate them. She set as many traps as she could, hoping the mice would come. Chris's predicament was clear. The water level had risen significantly in an area that was usually dry, submerging the rods he had placed on the shore. Luckily, his shelter was on higher ground, otherwise, he would have to move. The only problem was that his rack was still there. He couldn't go down to move it. If the water level didn't drop, he wouldn't be able to catch fish with his net. He could only head back to the shelter and craft keepsakes, wondering about his kids. If he couldn't find food later, he'd need to return to his kids if he couldn't find food. He hoped the storm would clear by tomorrow. Lars still considered leaving a line to fish. Even if he lost it, he wouldn't mind. If he caught a fish, it would be a big win. Although life here was full of challenges, he really wanted to go home now. He decided to wait until the storm passed. He quickly cleaned the fish. I'll head back to the shelter to cook it. Abalone and grilled fish make a great combo. The only issue is the limited firewood. I'll wait until the fish are smaller to gather more firewood. Camilla meditates, waiting for the mice, which soon appear. And they are playing around near the trap, having a great time. Unfortunately, one triggers the trap. Camilla quickly steps in to finish it off. She makes a potato cake but hates it, so she chucks it away. Hopefully, this will keep the mice away. Chris wonders how many contestants remain. Seeing a photo always makes him want to go home. He doesn't want to almost win like last time. This time, he hopes to use his longing as motivation. But he can't hold back his tears and cries on camera. Surviving in the wild makes you feel so lonely. It's worse than hunger. The storm is worse than expected. Lars stays in the shelter, observing. He hopes the drainage ditch holds and prevents flooding. Chris's water level has risen a lot and he needs to find more food. But post-storm, supplies are gone. He cooks a hearty meal, hoping his family feels his love from afar. What do you all think of this food? First, cut the mushrooms and put them in the pot to boil. Next, toss in the smoked fish. My mouth waters just thinking about it. On day 31, Lars finally sees the storm pass. His lasted longer than his previous challenge. Although there's more food this time, his body still feels very tired. For him, this challenge is already a win for him. Now, it's about how long he can hold out. He hopes his family can join in the celebration. Do you think Lars can achieve his goal? After Camilla got rid of the mouse, she slept much better at night. She knows there's still one more mouse to catch and hopes to get it soon. After the storm, the crew checks the contestants' health. They've lost a significant amount of weight. Only Chris broke a tooth. Everyone else is doing okay. After a thorough check, everyone can continue the challenge. Chris now needs to try catching fish. Due to the rising water levels, he needs to rearrange things, which is tougher than he thought. Changing the rack's direction seems best. That way, it will be easier to hang. Now it should be more convenient. He thinks this will definitely help him catch fish. Camilla's spot is swampy, nearly flooding the fire pit, and worst of all, it's littered with mouse droppings. She wishes she could just burn it all down, but for now, she can only use high heat to disinfect, hoping the food stays safe. Her body feels much better now. She hopes it will dry up a bit later because she feels completely soaked. If this keeps up, they'll freeze for sure. Lars' drainage ditch is useless, and the fire pit is buried in sand. It's already a mud pit. They use spruce branches to level it out, and it works well. It's much drier than before. The only worry is that sparks might ignite the area, as the surrounding wood is quite damp. Lighting a fire takes a lot of time. They need to quickly feed the fish to the main uncle. It's day 32 of the challenge. Chris feels much better now. With the good weather, he plans to explore further. He hopes to find new scenery and gather food, though it's unclear how much weight is lost. You can tell from his face that it's a lot. He looks like skin and bones. Camilla finally feels the weather drying up. She stopped stressing over firewood now that the water levels have dropped, and she feels life improving. Lars is planning to pack up and go fishing. He's already broken his personal record, and now he feels motivated to do anything. Lars feels no pressure at all. Meanwhile, Chris heads up the mountain and discovers some tasty white fungus. This tasty treat is even better with smoked fish. Just imagining it makes his mouth water, and he feels the trip was worth it. He stops to rest and shares photos. Chris hasn't seen his kids in a long time and wonders how they are doing. Camilla feels fit and has no trouble chopping and storing firewood. She feels like she's enjoying nature, not just surviving. Chris finds new food again. These juniper berries are great for seasoning fish, making smoked fish even tastier. Even the spring water here is great. Although her body has burned a lot of energy, she feels it's worth it. She can go back to the shelter to rest. It's truly a wonderful adventure. Lars just wants to catch more fish to eat. Unfortunately, luck isn't on his side today. He feels he's done enough and is considering whether to go home. Camilla started making souvenirs again. He remembered a contestant who made a huge trophy, but he thought size didn't matter. Looking good was more important. On the 33rd day of the challenge, Camilla saw another mouse. She felt it crawling on her as she slept, unsure if it was real or imagined, but the bite seemed to hurt. There was even feces on the souvenir she made. He couldn't accept that and really wanted to burn everything clean. Lars lay there, utterly bored. Since surpassing the last challenge, he felt unmotivated. It made him very irritable. He really wanted to blow up the shelter. With the current weather, he was too lazy to go out. He just lay down and slept. Chris was in a good mood, preparing to make some white fungus for breakfast. He planned to grind it into powder and bake it. It could actually be drunk like coffee. It smelled a bit strange, but overall it was pretty good. Camilla returned to her old shelter. She planned to renovate it and make it her happy place. She had already covered the platform. Everyone was curious about her plans. Chris's net snagged another fish, and he felt he was getting the hang of it. Another fish to eat. Camilla felt she had lost a lot of weight. She hadn't been this slim in a long time. She recommended this experience to anyone wanting to lose weight. She felt if she continued, she might look even better. Now she worried about rapid weight loss causing issues. He feared the show might force him to quit. On day 34 of the challenge, Camilla finally caught a fish. She was overjoyed and felt capable again. She quickly brought it back to cook and eat. Things were going well, though she felt a bit lonely without her girlfriend. He wondered how many contestants were left. Lars just wanted to stay by the fire to keep warm. Chris missed his family a lot. He kept updating his progress with their photos. With their wedding anniversary approaching, he wondered if he'd see his wife that day. Lars found these days extremely boring. He wanted to go home quickly to celebrate with his family. On the 35th day of the challenge, before dawn, Camilla got up to drink her urine. She relied on this holy water to keep going. She wondered if others thought it was useful. Anyway, Camilla drank it happily and felt her body getting better. Lars was bored and showed things to the camera. He hasn't seen his family in ages, and his mood keeps sinking. He's questioning the purpose of carrying on. Now, he just tends to the fish net and gathers firewood daily. It's unbearably lonely and miserable. If this keeps up, he'll drive himself crazy sooner or later. Camilla plans to turn her old hut into a bathhouse so she can relax there. Like this bone, it's a pretty good instrument. She was very happy chewing on it. Chris now wakes up to a cup of white fungus coffee. It tastes delicious, no worse than coffee outside. The most important thing is that it's free here. It's 100% pure and pollution-free, guaranteed to have no artificial additives. Camilla feels like she's going home soon. She's preparing to collect some stones to take back. Her girlfriend is a stone enthusiast and loves beautiful stones. She hopes to make her happy with them. Lars is even more eager to go home now. Despite his strong chance of winning, he's lost the drive to stay in the challenge. But going back to be with his family is more important. Chris, needless to say, complains to photos every day. It feels like everyone wants to quit and go home. Do you think Huixian will give up and go home? Now it's not about survival skills, but it's about who has the stronger will. Everyone knows this, but they can't help it. Now it's day 36. Chris is fishing again, and the weather is getting colder. He feels like going back to lie down. Camilla's nose is red from the sudden cold. She plans to celebrate in her small hut today. She wants to make a bonfire to keep warm. Once the stones are heated, she can take off her clothes and enjoy. She hasn't felt this relaxed in ages. She wishes you were here. The steam bath is incredibly comfortable. She feels like she could stay longer without any issues. She lost track of time but feels much better now. She feels like her bad luck is gone and she really wants to hug you. She finally achieved what she couldn't in the last challenge. She finally did this time. She doesn't know how many contestants are left. She hopes the challenge ends soon. Lars feels his body weakening and loses the will to continue, aimlessly walking along the shore. Chris is physically drained, pushing on purely through willpower. Each day feels tougher than the last. The show's boat is approaching the contestants. Who do you think will drop out? I bet Lars will. After all, he has no motivation. The others are still trying. But surprisingly, Camila just announced she's leaving. No one could have guessed this. Even the showrunners are surprised. Given her current condition, she could easily last another week. Camila believes she can keep going, but she misses her girlfriend. No prize money can sway her. She just wants to go home. It's a bit of a shame. I thought Camila would last longer. Now she's packing up all her things to leave. She's so happy and can't wait to fly home. But is it really safe for him to drink his own urine daily? He just complained about the annoying rats, but now one has saved him. He can't believe it and leaves some food for it. Reflecting on his arrival, he never imagined he'd get this far. If he competes again, he hopes his girlfriend can join him. After Camila leaves, only Chris and Lars are left. Who do you think has a better chance now? The food they have stored is irrelevant now. It's all about who wants to go home more right now. Chris appears to be mentally stronger, staying optimistic and focused on improving his situation. On the 37th day, Chris wakes up and gets ready to check his fishing net, hoping there's a fish in it. He quickly lifts the net and is surprised to find a big fish caught in it. This fish is crucial. It'll not only satisfy his hunger but also lift his spirits. With this catch, I believe he's secured the prize money. Chris gets emotional, wishing his family were here. He won't give up after landing that big fish, right? Meanwhile, on day 38, Lars's mood keeps sinking. He's even reluctant to check his fishing net now. He doesn't know what's wrong with him, he just can't muster any interest. Plus, he's feeling very unwell, with frequent dizziness and nausea. He's nothing like his energetic self before. He seems genuinely ill, and not catching any fish for 3 days has taken a toll on his mental state. On the 39th day, Lars finally catches a fish, but he doesn't look happy at all. Not sure if eating the fish will lift his spirits. Hopefully, he can push through. Meanwhile, Chris catches a cold. Feeling unwell, he stays in the shelter, planning to quit after eating his fish. He really doesn't have the energy to go outside. By the 40th day, the weather is extremely cold. Even the fire isn't enough to keep warm, you'd want to crawl into it. The show's crew arrives again. Maybe someone is quitting. Unexpectedly, Lars decides to go home today. If he knew Chris would win after he left, would he still choose to quit? Lars feels he's done enough by lasting this long. He doesn't want to end up in the hospital. It's getting harder to find food. He did well earlier, but luck ran out. When Lars boards the boat and quits, Chris is declared the winner. On the 42nd day, the crew checks on Chris. He hasn't realized he's won yet. His family is invited to celebrate. The kids are thrilled to see their dad. Only his wife knows how tough it was. Chris is talking to the crew when he suddenly sees his family and gets so emotional he can't speak. It's been so hard. The kids nearly pass out from the fish smell. Chris, feeling this moment is priceless, shares his meal with them. The fish is delicious. Chris dreams of his son joining the challenge someday. Congrats to Chris for his win. Who will take on the next challenge?